What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Zordo Ramirez. Get this. Zurdo states that I'll unify all the belts first, then see if Jake Paul's for real. Ramirez, who is 47-1 with 30 KOs, is focused on unifying the cruiserweight division with IBF champ Jai Opetaia. But there's also talk of a potential blockbuster fight with Jake Paul if he can get past Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in the co-main event. He states the goal is still undisputed champion, Ramirez says, but a Paul fight could come next. We'll see if he's about the action or just talk. And let me counterpunch. When I first started reading this, because this is the first time I read this article, I was starting to get optimistic. But then after reading the last portion of it, I was starting to get more pessimistic, right? And he says the goal is still undisputed champion, but a Jake Paul fight could come next. That contradicts what he said at the very beginning. You know, let's see if Jake Paul's for real, but my goal is to unify the belts. This is what this tells me, right? When people start talking contradictive or wishy-washy like this, this tells us that, hey, let me get that money first, and then let's see about unifying the belts. Because unifying the belts with Jai Opetaia is the real deal. You know that's the real deal. Regardless of what you say or what you claim of Opetaia's resume, like he said recently, you know, he knows that's the real challenge, not Jake Paul. But he also knows that Jake Paul has the duckies, the greenbacks, the cheddar, the change, right? He has the capital. He has that money fight in boxing at that particular division. Fortunately for them, you do have Jake Paul. But unfortunately for them, you do have Jake Paul. Because Jake Paul is one of those guys that gives you an opportunity, but the opportunity is not really what you think it is. It's beating up someone that is a very lucrative public figure, YouTuber, influencer, guys on that level that have made massive amounts of money. Okay, but on another platform. But they brought their platform to this platform, and this platform is nothing to really play with until they attempted to play with it, and they're really successful doing it. You know, with the Mike Tysons and the Anderson Silvas and the Tyra Woodleys, and you know, these bouts have done very good. And Jake Paul has shown that, hey, you guys should invest with me in this sport of boxing that I have took upon myself to make as my own. That's what's happening in boxing, if you didn't know, okay? But Zordo Ramirez is saying that, hey, you know, the goal is undisputed, but the Paul fight could come next. That means if Paul does and is serious and does beat Chavez Jr., that fight he's going to want. He's not going to want a Jai Opetaia fight, because why would he fight Jai Opetaia when he's not really promised to win that fight? Jai Opetaia might knock him out in that fight, which would be a very good fight because you have two very big cruiserweights. Zordo Ramirez is 6'2". Jai Opetaia is 6'2". These guys are big cruiserweights, okay? They're not small. They're not small fries, and they hit very hard, both Ramirez and Opetaia. So there's no guarantee what'll happen in that fight, and if he loses, how will he get the opportunity to fight Jake Paul then? And another question, why would Jake Paul want to fight him? Now, it's not a bad thing for Opetaia, because Opetaia's he's understanding, and he already went on note and saying, well, hey, if Zurdo can get that bag from Jake Paul, get that bag. But I don't give a damn about that bag. I want the belts. That's a real one talking right there. Zurdo is thinking money. He's thinking, well, how much money can I make from this particular opportunity? Which, according to Jai Opetaia, nothing wrong with that. right? I know it's nothing wrong with it. He wants that cash because Jake Paul supplies that cash if you get in the ring with him, if he's serious about fighting you. Because a lot of the times, Jake Paul does call out certain fighters that sometimes he has no intention on fighting. You know what I mean? But Jake, we'll see how, what he does, because he did fight Tommy Fury, came up short and never fought Tommy again. I don't know if that's necessarily his fault, but he did fight Tommy Fury, though. But Tommy Fury is not really proven, to be fair, right? But fighting Ramirez, and Ramirez's intentions, that's my issue with Ramirez. You know what I mean? Because it's like you're not really transparent on what the hell you want to do next. It's just pretty much you're trying to see if he beats Chavez and if he's serious, and then you'll get in the ring with him, and then you'll take on Opetaia. And I think if that's the question, and if that's the case, I think you should say that. Maybe the article of whoever made the article said it wrong or whatnot. That could be the case. But nonetheless, Zordo Ramirez, if he wants to fight Jake Paul, just say, I want to fight Jake Paul first. And then if I beat Jake Paul, because this is what could happen with Zurdo. Zurdo's he's kind of flat-footed, so he can't get punches off. And to be fair, Jake Paul is not a slow fighter. You know what I mean? And the crazy thing to say that he's not a slow fighter. He can get punches off quick. And Zurdo likes to get over eager at times. And if he does fight Jake Paul could very well be a cruiserweight champion legitimately if he knocks out Zurdo. Because Zurdo, come on, 47-1 with 30 KOs. You think that ain't a real record? You think that ain't a real fighter? Absolutely, he's a real fighter. And this is what happens, though, ironically, with fighters. They think they get a sure thing. Like Tyson Fury did Francis Ngannou. I'm going to make millions to fight a guy that doesn't know how to fight, and you get your ass whooped. That's what could happen in this situation. So don't think that karma can't come knocking on the door of Zordo Ramirez. Don't think that can't be the case, because it very well might be the case. So, Opetaia waiting for his opportunity, eager, wanting, hungry, but Zurdo is trying to see what Jake's going to do because Jake has the bag. And then, a lot of things could happen, right? But first things first, though, we have to really see what Jake Paul is going to do with Chavez. And because of this, okay, I'm going to cover that fight. Because there are real fighters that's waiting for real opportunities so we can really see a fight that we really need to see in the cruiserweight division. Okay? So if Jake Paul, and his fight with Chavez has anything to do with it, I'm all for it. But Zurdo, I think he should focus more on boxing than money. But then I am not Zordo Ramirez. But you guys tell me what you think of Zurdo stating first that he'll unify the belts, then see if Jake Paul is for real, then says later in the article that, hey, I might fight Jake Paul next if he beats Chavez Jr. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch.